There's a great quote from Richard Waitley. He said, if you lose an hour in the morning, you're going to spend the rest of your day trying to find it. What he meant by that is if you don't use that first hour really well, if you're reactive or busy, or if you honestly didn't set yourself up for success, then the rest of your day is going to be in reaction mode as well. And you're going to be busy but not productive. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can set up your morning so that you will never procrastinate again, but also so that you can start making massive gains. Actually, the first hour of your day is not the most important. The most important hour of your day is the last hour of your day. Research shows that 90% of people procrastinate sleep by mindlessly scrolling in bed. They're literally procrastinating sleep. And in the words of Jerry Seinfeld, night guy is setting up morning guy for failure. And so often at night, what we do is we set up our future selves for disaster. But also, what you do during that last hour not only frames how you feel about the day. If you would just journal, and a lot of research shows this, journaling about what went well that day is going to help you frame the day as a success, but it's also going to help you get clarity about what you want to commit to the next day. The main things you want to know about that last hour are this. That last hour of your day is going to determine the success of your next day. But also, that last hour of your day is going to determine the habits of your future self. What you do before you go to sleep determines the quality of your sleep, but also the depth of your sleep. If you go to sleep reactive and scrolling, then that's going to shape how your brain transforms at night. When you're asleep, your brain's formulating memories. It's also letting go of things that don't matter. And what you do during that last hour really matters. It also shapes the habits of what you'll do first thing in the morning the next day. So rather than putting mostly mindless information into your head, if you would output, meaning if you would actually create for a little bit, and that only takes 5 minutes, you definitely want to be fully unplugged. You want to set yourself up for incredible sleep. But also you want to design your brain really powerfully while you sleep. And you do that by framing the day that you just had in a really great way. Everything comes down to framing and filtering. So you want to frame the day at a powerful way. And you do that by writing down the most powerful forms of progress you had, the most powerful forms of learning, but also writing down why you're different from your past self, writing down what you learned that day, even if your whole plan went to junk, writing down why you're different. And ultimately, your goal is to frame the past in a powerful, positive way so that you can use that past to create a better future. You don't want to be used by the past. You want to use the past. You don't want to be a slave to the past. You want your past to be a slave to you. And psychologically, it's the present that determines the meaning of the past. Most people just don't take the time to effectively frame and filter their past to empower them in the present and in the future. Ultimately, at the end of the day, frame your day in a positive way, organize the ways in which you've learned, because when you do that and you write it down, then as you sleep, your brain's going to transform powerfully and amazingly while you sleep. And it's also going to let go of things that no longer matter because you're outgrowing and you're evolving past your former self. And so you don't need to have the same brain or ideas or worldview of your former self. You can keep learning and growing. And so writing that stuff down really helps. Ultimately, you want to make a decision and have a clear view of the next day and have no more than 3 objectives. I love the quote from Jim Collins. He said, if you have more than 3 priorities, you have 0. It's very common for people to have like a to-do list of 10 plus items, and that's a very shallow approach to living. That means that you're going to be task switching 100 times. Rather than going deep, you're going to go shallow. And so rather than having a ton of things to do, you really want to do 1 or 2 things very, very well. So this actually goes to the idea of week design, that you want to design your week based on catching big fish rather than catching small fish. Rather than trying to do 100 things in the week, you actually start trying to do a few things extremely well. You want to do a few things with massive upside. That's the 20% of things that creates 80% of your results. And you want those few things to be really resonant with your future self. So rather than doing a lot of shallow work and honestly having your days look very similar to each other, you would want to design the week holistically and have really powerful days for intense, focused, deep work. And you'd also want to have recovery days. Actually, in this book, 10X is Easier Than 2X, we share a lot of Dan Sullivan's amazing ideas. Dan Sullivan is the co-founder of Strategic Coach, but he has what he calls free days, focus days, buffer days. The main thing with this is that you want to have really intense focus days where you're doing deep focused work, ideally on one type of task. If you're task switching too many times, you're doing deep creative work and administrative work and meetings, you're all over the place. Instead, you do deep work, and so those would be what Dan would call focus days. Then you have recovery days in there, where you fully recover and rest. This would be like a professional athlete having an off day or a rejuvenation day. But then Dan's idea of buffer day is kind of more like organization. For me, this is more like doing meetings and stuff. And so you would want to stack or batch your meetings on 1 or 2 days of the week and then have some really deep space for deep creative work where you don't overly distract yourself. Having this kind of week design where you're focused on deep work rather than shallow work And I also consider this focused on deep flow rather than cheap flow. A lot of people, they may feel like they're in flow because they're really busy and they're getting a lot done, but honestly, they're busy. They're on a hamster wheel. They're busy but not effective. They're focused on urgent but not deep, important stuff that's going to transform their life and take them places where they're developing extreme levels of mastery and success. So before you even decide what to do on the day, you want to design the week and get really good at that last hour of your day. And now, to the point of the first hour of the day, there's a few really important things to do. Wake up when you want to wake up. There's a lot of debate between if you should wake up to an alarm clock or if you should just wake up randomly. I have found early to bed, early to rise. And so for me, waking up really early is powerful. Wake up early, get yourself into a new environment, super hydrate, and then there's a few key things you want to do. Definitely you want to pull out your journal, and before you start inputting, like putting information in your head, you want to output. Because your brain was going through so much transformation while you were asleep, it's really powerful to put yourself in a quiet environment, a sacred space. For me, that's just getting in my car and then just journaling. Some people would call this morning pages, but the idea here is that you just want to get the ideas onto the page. You could write about your future self. You could write about your day. You could write about what you're trying to accomplish. The main point is to just start writing, and over time, you get better and better at asking yourself questions. As an example, today when I was writing about some of the big things I did yesterday. Yesterday, I made some big moves. So I talked about some of the key conversations I had yesterday, some of the important experiences. But I also wrote about some of the important choices I'm even going to make today, and holistically, some of the big moves I'm going to make in the next 3 years and even in the next 90 days. And so you can really write however you want. This is a private journal. This is a private conversation between you and yourself. And the purpose is just to clear the cobwebs, get clear, get committed, and continuously organize yourself. This brings up a really important point about time, and that's that the past is a draft. The past is like the draft of a book or of an email where you continuously redraft and recreate it, but the future is that way as well. Rather than just having a fixed view of your future, you're continuously refining and cleaning it up. And so even just today, I wrote down where I want to be in my next 90 days. I wrote about where I want to be in 3 years. And I just wrote about some of the big things I'm doing right now. There's actually a lot of intense things going on in my life right now, and some big choices I need to make, some big changes, which I'm excited about, and also some challenges I'm facing. And so the journal is just a beautiful place for you to just get it out and just start really kind of cleaning up and clarifying your thoughts. By getting it down, it really cleans up your thinking, and it also cleans up your emotions, and it helps you to ultimately make decisions. That's the goal, is just that you get clear, you get creative, and you get decisive. Aside from journaling in the morning, I would say that there's a few things that are really powerful to do. One would be either some form of intense fitness. For me, I actually typically, this morning, I went on a 6-mile run with a friend. You do some form of fitness that fits your future self, whether it's going on a walk, going on a run, whether it's going to the gym and doing weight training. Do some form of fitness, get some form of really good input, but that input ideally would be after you output, after you journal. Then if, while I'm out walking, I'm listening to a book on Albert Einstein right now, but listen, fill your mind with incredible material, and then ultimately do that one most important thing. Make some form of deep work progress on your future self. That would be something that would be important, not urgent, something that is deep work, something that is ultimately going to take you to major places. This is the kind of deep and important creative and decision-based work that you can't rush. It's not about rushing this. This is about deep learning, deep focus, deep mastery, and you getting really, really good at what you do. And if you can do that in the morning, it doesn't matter what time, but if you can give yourself space to do that most important thing, granted, it's one of those days where you're focused. If it's a recovery day, then maybe it's going to look a little different. But if it is a focused day where you're deep in focus, definitely give yourself some space to actually do some important work. And I love the quote, better prolific than perfect. I think the important idea here is that you want to move forward imperfectly and then have continuous feedback loops. So that is powerful design for how to stop procrastinating and what to do first thing in the morning. I'm Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Please please subscribe to the channel. Also, if you haven't done it yet, please check out Dan Sullivan and my new book, 10X is Easier Than 2X, as well as Be Your Future Self Now. Talk to you later. Have a great day.